Oh, hey there, guys, and we are back. Well, I'm back. Since left long ago. But last episode, we finished up our USB to three pin fan converter here. It obviously looks a little bit tacky with the duct tape on the end, but trust me, it will definitely make it stay together a lot better. And just a quick test to show you, it does in fact work if you plug the USB in the correct way. Start spinning up and achieves a decent speed of probably about 4 to 600 RPMs and blows a decent amount of air. Enough to make a difference, certainly. And so, oh, hold on. I also, while I got the duct tape for this, went ahead and taped down the LED side of this just around the edge of the fan there so that it wouldn't interfere with anything, and so it looked a little bit cleaner not having the extra cord around. So yeah, we got our USB fan going, and as you might imagine from the title of this one, we're going to be preparing these two pieces of metal here because these two need to fit together. And one moment, get you guys in close here. Also, get the focus correct. As you might be able to see, this has some sharp edges on these little grates here. And as you can imagine, if you were to constantly have your wrist resting on this or something, you would not want it to feel sharp in the slightest. So, give me one moment actually. Now we should be able to do this. Just grab my trash can over here, set one of them aside. We're not going to be plasti dipping them yet, because first we need to sand them down obviously, but that will be for another episode as well. So what we're going to want to do is, this is going to be loud as well, just listen to this. We're going to want to take this 3M sanding block 220 grit, and we're going to want to use, I'm right now going to use the flat end in order to scrape in the direction of the sharp edge, which is diagonal in this case. It's going to be at about a 45, and I'm just going to continuously scrape like this over into the trash can to make sure that I get all as much of the small metal particles into the trash can as I can get. And I'm just going to do this for a little while in order to get rid of any sort of sharp edges. Let me see how it's going so far. Considerably less sharp. There are still some edges to it, but it's much less so than it was. So yeah, we're going to use this to continue this process for a good little while until we get this all contoured the way we like it. Let's try some back and forth. Okay, actually that works quite a bit better, the back and forth motion here. Even though the grain of the sharp edges is this way, at a 45-degree angle to it, simply sliding back and forth seems to work. I'm going to pause the stream, and I will resume about the time that these are done sanding. So I'll be right back. I finished up both of them. You can't really notice a difference in the way they look per se. You can definitely notice a difference in the way they feel though. So let me see if I can pull this back into focus here. Now what this has done to it is it's rubbed off those rough edges so that we're no longer going to have discomfort when we're sliding our hand over it. It feels like a regular metal, almost like a chain link fence, here, but it feels pretty smooth. It's not obviously very smooth. I spent probably about 5 minutes on each, so not too long. They did pretty well for just a quick sand, and an added benefit of sanding them in this way is when we try to apply the Plasti Dip later on, it's going to give it more of a surface to grip onto because it's now a little bit textured. Now I'm going to quickly show you something you can do. Also, it should be noticed that it rubs off a good bit of metal onto the pad itself, so you're going to want to change out which side you're using now and again. But I'm going to quickly show you. If you want, I'm not sure how well this will work because the 220 grit on this isn't particularly strong with the foam backing, but I'm going to attempt a brushed aluminum sort of finish, or in this case I guess brushed iron, steel, whatever this might be. But what you're going to want to do is pull it straight down the length of the metal here several times. You're going to want to be as careful as possible and apply enough pressure that it should scour the metal. What you're looking for here is to do many straight line passes until it makes a groove of sorts, or I guess multiple grooves. You're looking for many grooves to appear out of this to give it a brushed aluminum type finish. And initially it's looking a little faint, but it is looking a tiny bit. Let's see if we can get it right here. It is, if you ignore the bright spot here off of my monitor. In fact, let's move it over here and get them out of the way. See if we can't reveal some of that. You can sort of see there's a brushed finish on it. At least it's a little prettier looking. It's cleaned up considerably from what it was. But I'm going to repeat this process on all the other edges. Also, something to be noted, a lot of that metal comes off on your fingers from the sanding. That ends up coming off on your fingers a lot. You'll notice there is a good bit of metal that came off as a result of this little brush aluminum technique. So make sure you don't use a dull edge for too long. And also something to note, I just almost made that mistake. You're going to want to make the brushed aluminum finish parallel on all sides. So you're not going to want to, for example, do what I almost just did there and go perpendicular or even at an angle. You're going to want to consistently use the same angle. So in this case, straight up the stand. And you're going to want to make many straight passes at it. And some of the dirty look on them will start to fade away over time, and as well with a decent polish afterward with some soap and water to get all the extra loose particles off that are hanging out on there. But you can sort of see a finish emerge out of the metal just by doing this with the scouring pad here. And it's going to look a whole lot of a heck better than just standard metal look. There's this little bit of work, but you got to make sure you do it right. There is a better way to do this so that you get more consistent stripes, but I found that if you're just careful and you don't go like as quick as you can, you end up with a decent result just doing what I'm doing here. But especially on these long straight pieces, it's good to apply a lot of pressure to really scour it, because you don't want it to end up coming out with just some thin lines. You want it a little more pronounced. And a note also, you pretty much only want to do this on the top. You don't need to do it on the bottom unless you don't want to, or unless you want to, I guess. But yeah, so I'm just going to leave it on the top piece. I'm not going to do it on the bottom piece, partially because I'm starting to run out of pad to use, and partially because it's not going to be too necessary. I will do as much as I can on it with it, but I won't do a whole lot. It'll just be minute details, some of the minutiae of the project, some of those things that you feel happy that you did in the end. And even though people won't notice it, you notice it, and that is prize enough. But yeah, this 220 grit I would recommend for to scratch into the metal here over something like a 120 grit or something, or like a 400 grit. 400 grit I'd say is a little too high for something like this. It would definitely not achieve the same scratches as this does. And let's get this little corner here. He's looking a little sad. But I think we're about done scratching into the metal here. I'll show you a side by side here. Hold this guy and hold this guy up to each other. Probably need to focus that. So let's sort of set them like this and get that focused. Okay, so right about here is where we want to do it. And our finished one is on the left versus, or I guess it's on the right for you guys, versus the left for you guys, which is the unfinished one. You'll notice also that you can see the slight reflection of the fan in the one on the right, which is our test case for the finish. It reflects light a bit more, but definitely it cleans up some of the dirty looking spots in the metal from where it was fabricated and it got scratched up. But yeah, I'd consider that a good bit better than it started for not a whole lot of work. But I will do a few scrapes on this metal just to attempt to get off some of those markings. I won't bother with the actual finish, so I'm going to go perpendicular for the end pieces, but I just want to try to eliminate any sort of scratches that might have originated on here. Any sort of deformations that would cause it to look a little bit ugly. And we can attempt to put a few little scours in there while we're at it. But after this, I'm going to go and try to wash these off because they are noticeably dirtier now that we've scraped off all the metal here that we have, and we need to definitely get that off. A word to the wise: do not do this in clothes you want to keep clean, because as I have noticed, all this metal that's coming off is getting onto my fingers and my clothes. So I would not recommend doing this in good clothes or clothes that you can't wash in time for whatever you might need, for example, school tomorrow. But I think we're about done here. So, I just realized I'm really out of focus because I forgot to reset it. So we got our second piece here, just lightly scoured by the pad. Looks a whole lot better than it did, in my opinion, than it did at the very beginning. and both of them are noticeably duller in terms of the sharp edges here. Oh, I didn't notice you there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry there. Too cool. 5 school. Too cool for 5 cool. But yeah. So I think we're gonna end it. Actually, no. I was going to do one more thing before we ended it. I was going to go ahead and get these pieces fitted, quote unquote. I'm going to try to match the edges up so that we get as even a result as possible. So for example, I'm going to want to bring this up here, going to want to bend this piece right here a little bit in. I'm going to want to bring this bend here particularly in a little bit, and likewise this bend just a tiny bit. And that's what these 2 sets of pliers are for. Yeah, I see you. I got your Skype message. It's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make those bends. You're going to want to anchor yourself on the piece of metal with one set of pliers, and on the other set simply make the bend more pronounced. And we're going to want to do the same on this piece. So all you're doing is gripping the base of the metal with one set and bending it with another, so that you hopefully get a better bend in it. And I also need to make a slight angle in this because it's ever so slightly off. Let's check this one. It looks about good, but it's slightly off. Bent. There we go. And do the same here. I also want to, oh, there's a cat. I'm going to want to try to crimp the ends off as well, because they are slightly open in that respect. Okay, now let's do a test fit here, because we're going to need to firmly attach these in one of the next episodes. Okay, I think all I need to do is bend these 2 tabs here slightly outward. So, pliers, and bend it up. So, for reference, I'm bending it this way, out, away from the base itself.
Let the cat in.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there she goes. In comes the cat. And out go your eyes, because that's blinding. There we go. Okay, and now do the same for the other one. We just want a slight, maybe like a 5-degree bend away from the base here. You don't want too much, otherwise it won't correctly attach to the stand that you made out of the other one. So, test fit, and that's about right. It's almost perfect. And we're going to call it good in that respect. So as you can see, they've almost flawlessly come together as a set, and this gap here, right here, is going to be where I insert the fan, the one we created last time. So, I guess we're going to do that in the next part. So until then, guys, oh, bye there.